Go to mymetalogic.com. On the top left, click on Subscribe. Click on Subscribe now. You are now on the card page of Metalogic subscription. Quantity refers to number of months. Change it to from 1 to 12. Click on Update card. The subscription amount will be calculated on number of months selected. For 1 month, it is 500 rupees. For 12 months, it is 6000 rupees. Click on Proceed to check out. Fill the billing details and click on Place Order. Now you can choose your mode of payment. You have just made a right choice. Thank you for subscribing to mymetalogic.com. Go to mymetalogic.com. On the top left, click on Subscribe. Click on Subscribe now. You are now on the card page of Metalogic subscription. Quantity refers to number of months. Change it to from 1 to 12. Click on Update card. The subscription amount will be calculated on number of months selected. For 1 month, it is 500 rupees. For 12 months, it is 6000 rupees. Click on Proceed to check out. Fill the billing details and click on Place Order. Now you can choose your mode of payment. You have just made a right choice. Thank you for subscribing to mymetalogic.com.
Namaskar, hello, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Monica Bachchan. I'm a founder of Metalogic Projects Management Services. We are based out in Delhi, and many of you might be seeing us for the first time, but this is our 48th webinar. And we started the webinars in 2001 when the pandemic broke. So today on 27th April 2023, we are presenting you webinar on lithium exploration in India and batteries, webinar supported by SMEV. It's a Society of Manufacturers for Electric Vehicle. This is our 48th webinar series, which we started during pandemic in 2021. I hope you have been gaining insights from our physical and virtual programs. The recording of our last physical conference on ease of doing business and mining in February is available on our YouTube channel. So viewers, I'd like to inform you that this program is currently live on YouTube. You can, if you're not able to view the program or maybe finding any difficulty on Teams, you can simply visit to YouTube and type Metalogic PMS. You will find the channel and you'll be able to see the live, and this program will also get recorded there. I like to make a mention that Metalogic has come up with a portal mymetalogic.com. So all the programs get documented and it gets shared as well. The report of the program you can download post webinar after a week from mymetalogic.com. Just a short housekeeping before we get started. If you have any question during the panel discussion, please type them into the chat box in your Teams. I will bring them up during the presentation and we will also have time for questions at the end. Always mention your company name and organization which you are representing and who would you like to address your question to. We may try to have some poll questions as well. So please watch the program very carefully because your vote matters. So today, our expert panelist, we have Dr. Shubh Gautam, Chief Technical Architect from American Precoat, California. We have Mr. H.L. Langeh, Joint Director, Department of Mines and Geology, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. We have Dr. H.S.M. Prakash, former DDG from Geological Survey of India. We have Dr. Abani Samal, founder and principal from GeoGlobal LLC. We have Mr. Ajay Sharma, Secretary General, Society of Manufacturer of Electric Vehicle. And I will just find out whether we have Mr. Prakash Kumar from CSIR because he was also been trying to connect. Meanwhile, to start with, I'd like to welcome our expert panelists. And first, I'd like to invite Dr. Shubh Gautam, Chief Technical Architect, American Precoat, to please open the panel discussion and set the theme of the event. Welcoming you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Metalogic, and lovely friends and panelists on this topic, which probably I put it as one of the most difficult tasks that has been assigned to humanity. Now, make no mistakes. How we approach lithium is not because lithium has become fashion over the years. What we are discussing is that lithium deposits open a great opportunity for India. And if played our cards well, it could be a great step and a source of strength in our contribution and our commitments towards net zero. My question is, had we found these deposits 20 years back, would we be as excited as we are? Of course, what about net neutrality that we signed in World Trade Organization. We have to achieve net zero by 2050. What that means is, as a country, as a citizen, as a responsible people of one of the greatest democracies in the world, we will have zero emissions by 2050. Now, emissions need not be because of only the automotive system or the ecosystem. Emissions happen because we need electricity to power our homes. We need electricity to power offices, shopping malls, hospitals. We need fossil fuels to run automotive ecosystems, which is basically our cars. So where are we? As we say, over the time, the technology cost curve does one thing, and that is they come down. And in the same manner, the performance cost curves over the period of time do one thing, they always go up. Now, let me share some data with you and why lithium becomes so attractive to us. But there are pros and cons on how we handle lithium. There are 1.40, and I'll confine my arguments to basically automotive system, because as we look at it and given the time constants in this webinar, we can only address probably automotive systems and the requisite battery that we require to run them from an EV perspective. Today, we have 1.4 billion automotive systems on the roads, primarily cars. Let's leave aside trucks, heavy buildings. Let's leave aside locomotives, anything else. Of which, globally, the EV has 4% market share. In India, it is less than 1%. So the bigger challenge is from now until 2050, which is roughly 25 years, we have the greatest opportunity in human mankind to substitute 97% of these ICEs, internal combustion engines. And obviously, when we substitute internal combustion engines, we substitute them with an alternative technology. And this is where capitalism comes in. We're not investing in lithium, we're investing in a technology. Today, that technology is spearheaded by an element called lithium. Lithium has been there in the Earth's crust for millions of years. It was never of interest probably before 20 years. It is of interest because we are now looking at global warming. We are looking at climate change. And climate change and global warming have become a serious issue for everybody, every human mankind that has ever breathed on this planet. Capitalism breeds the necessity to own policy and institutions which allow free flow of capital into areas to acquire assets. And the jurisdictional principles of acquiring assets and protecting them is not defined by capitalism. This is why bodies like World Trade Organizations were not born 100 years ago. They were born barely 25 years ago. If I look at why lithium is such a great source of technologies, because most cars are today powered by lithium-ion batteries. Of course, I will not go into the details of the chemistry of why lithium is preferred because of electrochemical ionization potential design, and so on and so forth. But then there are several lithium deposits that we know, and there'll be a lot of experts who'll be talking on them. I mean, they are pegmatite deposits, the brine deposits, the sedimentary deposits, the geothermal brines, the mineral sands, and all of these deposits, depending on the geology and the mineralogy of the deposits, have pros and cons. Now, let me tell you something. Lithium today costs about $18.3 a kg. This is about an hour back. This is the cost of extracted mined lithium metal. A $18.3 kg metal converts into a cell, which is probably one cell which requires 10 grams of lithium. Now, for 100 kilowatt hour of a system, which is typically the Tesla S-Plate, which is the top ranking model, which does about 600 kilometers to single charge, you need 100 kilowatt hours, which means 10,000 cells require 100 kgs of lithium. Do the maths yourself. The cost of producing lithium mined to 100 kilowatt hour system, you need 100 kgs of lithium. Lithium costs only $2,000, whereas the battery costs today upwards of $18,000. And when that battery goes into a car, that car costs upward of $90,000. Do you get the economics? So when we say we're going to mine lithium, make batteries out of it, and then put them in the cars, do not forget the cost economics. We are a country with a per capita income of less than $2,000. Is this affordable? And that's what I say. If we have to achieve net zero, and if these deposits have to make sense, that they need to be mined, and we have to be self-sufficient in terms of getting towards net zero as a country in one of the fastest developing economies on that planet, then we have to make it affordable. But of course, the performance cost curve will go up, the technical cost curve will come down. What about the cost innovative curve? Will we be able to mine this at affordable cost? I wish I had my hands on the lithium deposit that we've had recently discovered in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. First of all, my compliments to Government of India, Ministry of Mines in the state government of Jammu and Kashmir, and my all brothers and sisters back home, that this is a monumentous decision. The question is, what kind of deposits are these? I was in Santiago, Chile in 2017, and I was interested in looking at how do you mine lithium. Today, 40% of lithium that is used in automotive systems comes alone from one country, Chile. From there, it comes alone from one location, that is Salar de Cama mines in Chile. It's in the Atacama deserts. And when I was touring that facility, I was inundated. I was shocked. I mean, there were salt walls on the left of my walking, salt walls on the right of my walking. I was walking on salt walls. That was a brine extraction process. I'm told the brine extraction process is the most effective process for mining lithium today. Now, of course, lithium can be mined from hard rocks as well, but the question is cost. Even if we make lithium, even if we make batteries, even if we put in the cars, but if it can't be affordable, then what will happen is there will be a technology upgradation because capital is coming in technology. Someone comes and says, well, I can make a battery with zinc. Zinc is much more easily available resource on the planet. What do we do then? So the question that we have these huge reserves is a great euphoria. The question is, how do we put to use and where's the capital to move on? Let me tell you the largest lithium mining areas in the world today. I talked about the Salar de Cama in Chile. The second, the Greenbushes in Australia. The Greenbushes lithium mine is the largest hard rock lithium mine in the world. It's in Western Australia. But the question is, the cost competitiveness of extracting lithium and putting in a battery is inversely proportional to commerce, which is why it is not a source of lithium today. Then you have Argentina. Then you got Qinghao Lithium Salt Lake in China. And this is the salt lake which is producing most of the lithium that then goes into the supply chain for manufacturing the lithium ion batteries in China, which is why China is predominantly one of the strongest players in the world as far as lithium batteries are concerned. How are lithium batteries?
We lost you, Shubh Gautam sir.
Is it clear now?
Yes, and your mic was also having little noise. So, ek baar aap,
So I'll turn
Ajay,
off
if you
my
could just
video
adjust.
because I'll turn off my video because it might be consuming a lot of bandwidth, right?
Yeah. We are able to
So
hear you
basically,
clearly
what
now.
is there? The first, I was coming at lithium ion battery manufacturing, the cell manufacturing. Basically, lithium ion cells are then grouped together to make a battery. A battery is what a battery pack is all about, right? You have an electrode. The first step is basically you have positive and negative electrodes, which are made up of thin layers of various materials, such as it could be lithium cobalt oxide, we call NCM, which is lithium manganese oxide, and graphite. They are coated on thin aluminum and copper foils and dried, and then you can cut them to whatever size you want. Then comes a separator. The separator is a small thin film made of hydrocarbons, could be syndiotactic polypropylene or a polyethylene, which is then wrapped around the cathode and is a barrier between the anode and the cathode. Now, make no mistakes, the current technology of making battery separators is a wet process. The wet process is extremely environmentally unsustainable because it generates tetrafluoroacid and very serious consequences on the environment. There is a dry process which is in place, but then we'll have to see the cost implications of a dry process. Once this happens, then the whole cell is assembled. The positive and negative electrodes are layered together with the separator in between, and they're rolled into a tight cylindrical space. Now, this is what we call a jerry roll. It is placed in a metal can which serves as the outer casing of the battery cell. So we have cylindrical cells and we've got prismatic cells. And they're used depending on what kind of output we need out of lithium cells. Finally, that metal can is then filled with an electrolyte solution, which is a typical mixture of lithium salts and a lot of organic solvents. It's dried, it's baked, and then it is sealed. This is how basically a lithium ion battery is made. So we know what kind of lithium deposits are there. What is the cost implication of extracting lithium out of those deposits? The cost innovation is important to make it attractive and affordable to the general population, and how lithium-ion batteries are made. The question is, let me give you some more flesh on the bone. The manufacturing cost of lithium-ion batteries per ampere hour today varies between 10 cents to 30 cents per ampere hour, which means the manufacturing cost is about $150 to $180 per kilowatt ampere hours. Assuming the average battery voltage of 3.6 volts. Now we have different technologies from 3.2 volts to 3.7 volts, let's say 3.6 as an arbitrage. As an example, let me take Tesla. The specific lithium-ion battery used by Tesla is known as a 2170 cell. Now what's a 2170? It's a cylindrical cell that measures 21 millimeter in diameter and 70 millimeters in length. It was developed by Tesla in collaboration with their battery partner because one of the largest reserves of lithium ions and lithium metal was first discovered in Clayton Valley, Nevada. And Clayton Valley, Nevada had 1 million tons of lithium reserves. And this is where the first 1 gigawatt factory of Tesla was put up, which is why Tesla's car came into being such a great first mover advantage. These 2170 cells were subsequently converted into what we know as a 4680 cell. And they have been powering not only cars, they've been powering Cybertrucks, semi-vehicles, and so on and so forth. So a cylindrical Tesla battery, which uses 10 grams of lithium per cell, needs about 100 kilograms per car. Now understand, to mine 1 ton of lithium, you need 22 lakh liters of water. To ferry 22 lakh liters of water up and down from a mine, to extract, to comply, to clean, needs huge, humongous resources. It takes minimum 5 to 7 years to develop an infrastructure. It takes 4 to 5 years to settle an open cast mine, and it takes next 12 years to get a decent return on investment of the mining process. This should give us an idea of the capital that needs to be employed, and we have only 25 years to achieve net zero. The part of the problem is, who goes to dance first? The policies are made by the political establishments globally. In Europe, mining is banned because they feel it's illegal. But then the same policy, someone would go, probably take a case of Finland. You don't have mining leases in Finland because they call it illegal. But then you would go to a shopping complex and buy a computer, which was made in China. How fair is that? The question is trade-off. Today, we have lithium deposits. If we explore the lithium deposits, are we trying to sell this to a population who would agree to sacrifices and trade-offs? Now, trade-offs definitely does not mean that we will have any less happiness quotient or our children will be any less well in terms of lifestyle quotient. I mean, what happened before the pandemic? Every quarter, probably 10 people would fly from one end of the planet to another just to attend board meetings. Today, we do that over Zoom, over Microsoft Teams. Now, has this taken anything from us? So, I mean, except going and dining and whining, what else were you doing in a board meeting that you can't do virtually over Zoom? So it's a trade-off. Are we willing to have that trade-off? The mining, lithium mine, has basically 6 processes. You explore, which has been done, which is where we are discussing. We've got deposits. We need to know the hard rock, brine deposits. What kind of deposits are they sands? Number 2, we drill for them, right? Once we drill, we get to extract the samples for them and analyze as to what should be the next chemical process to go forward. We extract them depending on the type of the process. We concentrate them, we purify them, we refine them, we convert into a log, which is a lithium log. Just by saying, I mean, it's a great opportunity. I'm giving you pros and cons. You decide for yourself. And then if you invest $50 billion down the line comes the technology and someone says, look, I got a sodium cell or I got a zinc cell, which is more predominantly available. Your cell is $15,000. My cell is $5,000. What happens to capitalism? It's a question of capitalism. And what's more worrisome for me is not lithium. Lithium is the battery that runs the car, but the whole electrical system of the car runs on copper. That's what the wiring harness does. And more problems are there in the copper mining today than in lithium mining. Copper mining is struggling. It's a loss-making proposition. What do we do and how do we go from there? So there are physical challenges, but then the question is the social, political, and financial challenges are bigger than the physical challenges. The physical challenge is the mining of lithium. But the social challenge is, for example, my niece, she says, oh, I don't want to buy a car. Welcome to the new thought process. In 20 years' time, you'll have self-driving cars, you'll have sharing cars. I don't know, where will we be? And suddenly you put all that money in lithium mining, you sunk $100 billion, and the people say, oh my God, our making automotive systems is loss-making because nobody wants to buy a car. You have an app and a self-driving car comes to your porch, you get into it, you go to a place, everything is regulated. You don't have traffic lights. This is going to be a reality. So how do you ensure that there is a participation from capital? There's a participation from the political will. There's a trade-off that we as human beings are willing to do to achieve net zero. And all of this today, as we invest in technology, it's a great opportunity, but we'll have to be careful. I will lead all of us to that and open the house for more question and answer later on. I'd love to hear some panelists and experts on where I'm leaving and taking it from here. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the lovely insight and leaving the floor to answer, So next we will have Mr. H.L. Langeh. He's a Joint Director, Department of Mines and Geology from Government of J&K. I would request Mr. Langeh to please unmute yourself, and sir, it's over to you to please present your view.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir. Sir, your voice is coming extremely low.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you need to speak little louder, sir.
Okay. Actually, I would like to make a point here that the GGM has not conducted exploration of lithium. It is the GSI who has conducted the exploration of lithium. And we are in the process of delineation of land involved, forest land, private land, and other infrastructure in the area of interest. And the process has been started by the district administration. And moreover, I can't comment on the report of GSI because they are in the process of further refining the report. Because the lithium recovery part has to be made yet by the GSI. So since it is a investigation of G3 level and the resource which has been mentioned by GSI about 5.9 million ton, it has to be converted into the reserve after beneficiary studies. And whatever job we have in the site, we will be completing in the due time. I have nothing to say in the exploration part of the lithium because GSI is conducting exploration. I think they have taken the matter with IBM for beneficiation process of lithium.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So we will hear from GSI also. We have the former DDG with us. Mr. Sir, you're there because I think we lost you. So now we'll straight away go to Mr. Dr. HSM Prakash, sir.
Yeah, good morning, learned panelists and Ms. Monica. It is very interesting to listen to Dr. Shubh Gautam and also Dr. Langeh. What has been told in GSI press bulletin, I don't know whether it was by a GSI person or from the ministry or somewhere it has happened. As Dr. Langeh told, it is the first stage of work that is projected. We call it the G4 report, and it requires G3, G2, G1, and then it should be disclosed. And as such, what is there in the G4 report pertaining to this lithium occurrence? I call it an occurrence, not a prospect, not a deposit. Okay, and what has been projected is it was done in 1997. So far, it has not seen the light of the day. Only now it has seen the light of the day. It's a preliminary report of GSI pertaining to a bauxite deposit, which is having 5.9 million tons of, say, reserves, out of which the lithium content is only, please note, 350 to 400 ppm, parts per million. That makes nearly 0.0004% of the total tonnage available. In actual terms, it comes to around 5,900 kg of lithium, not the 5.9 million tons of lithium. Please note, this correction has to be done by somebody. I am giving this correction today. Mr. Shiv Gautam complimented the Government of India, GSI, for this huge discovery. Please note that it's not a lithium deposit, it's a bauxite deposit in which lithium is only a small part. So with that correction, we'll proceed further. And there are several things to be discussed in Mr. Shiv Gautam's opening remarks. First of all, I would like to react about the concept of zero CO2 emissions by 2050 or 2070 as committed by our Prime Minister, or 2100 by any other person. With zero CO2 emissions, can the vegetation survive? Do the plants and trees going to live after that? Do we need a zero CO2 emission? There was no point of time in the history of the earth when the CO2 emissions were zero. When we look back into the past, we learn that up to 2,000, 3,000 ppm of CO2 was there in the Cretaceous Eocene times, then mid Paleozoic times, and then the upper Proterozoic times, and several times. See, CO2 goes up and down from time to time according to some geological changes. We'll have to understand this. CO2 emissions are not solely due to vehicle emissions, not only due to fossil fuel burning or thermal power stations, coal burning. An active volcano can release 100 times more carbon dioxide than all the human vehicle emissions in 1 year. So that is the estimate done by geologists. So geology has got a greater role to play in understanding the CO2. CO2 is an innocent gas. More the CO2, it is helpful, more health for the plants and trees. We should not forget that aspect. And what has been projected by the IPCC panel, UN IPCC panel, is totally wrong. It has been dismissed. It has been rejected as a fake theory, as a false theory. What has been projected as 350 ppm pre-industrial era content to 440 ppm today is nothing in the atmosphere. We have to understand ppm means parts per million. Out of 1 million particles or molecules, 440 molecules are CO2. What about the rest? 9,99,660 molecules. There are all other gases. What is their role? Do they reflect the sunlight? Or do they absorb the sunlight? Or they do allow the sunlight to pass through? This has not been designed. This was a crooked theory projected by certain vested interests 30 years ago or 25 years ago. One example is we have been watching over TV that by 2020, because of glacier melting, sea level rise, 20 cities will be drowned. We are in 23. How many cities are drowned by now? Nothing has happened. Now they have shifted the goalpost to 2050. Some people are talking of 2100. So things are changing. And between COP26 and COP27, there's a sea change in their thinking. Now they're not talking of carbon taxation, carbon sequestration, and all those things. Now they're talking of climate resilient agriculture, adaptation to the climate change. The concept of climate change is totally wrong. I call it climate perturbations from time to time for some short duration, maybe for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, then the normalcy would come back. There are many hundreds, thousands of earlier periods when climate was perturbed. Perturbations were there. You can refer to Tambora 1815, what happened all over the world for 6 years. Then 1883 Krakatoa, what happened all over the world. Then 74,000 years ago when Toba erupted, what happened? It created havoc all over the world for several tens of years. So that kind of natural disturbance will be there because of geological activity, because of volcanic eruptions. I am doing research on this one. I have floated a new scientific theory called geometeorology, which has been tested over the last 5 years successfully. I am giving predictions about climate perturbations in Kodagu and Kerala province, where there was a deluge and huge landslide problem in 2018 and 19. I have found out the cause for that, and I am ready to focus on Japan or Brazil or America and then give predictions. It is such a powerful theory in geology. It is called geometeorology. Okay, not only the volcanic eruptions on land, I am monitoring the volcanic eruptions, thousands of eruptions underwater. We have not paid attention to underwater eruptions all these years by any geoscientist in the world. That is where we have failed to understand the climate properly. And now I am revoking the idea of geological angle. Unfortunately, in the IPCC panel, there was no proper geologist, and only glaciologists were there who do not know about volcanology or plate tectonics or igneous chemistry or magma chemistry, so many other aspects. So like that, there are so many things to discuss about that. Now coming to lithium, as far as exploration of lithium in India is concerned, Jammu, I hope Dr. Langeh will agree with me about the bauxite and about the lithium content before I proceed with the scenario in Karnataka and elsewhere in the country. Yeah, Dr. Langeh, please.
Sir, actually, I have gone through the report submitted by Geophysical of India. It is, I have already submitted that it is G3 stage investigation, and only 200 ppm parts per million is a cut-off grade of lithium which they have mentioned in the report. And until and unless we have the recovery part of the deposit, we are not sure that how much recovery is going to be met by the process of beneficiation, and it is subject to the IBM studies. And I think IBM has taken up the issue, GSI taken up the issue, has been given to understand that process of beneficiation is must before going ahead.
Okay. So beneficiation and other things, okay. But handling the bauxite itself is a big question. G3 and G2 and G1 we have to do before that. With that correction, please louder, please.
Sir.
Yeah.
The resource which have indicated 5.9 million ton. You have elaborated in your speech that it is 500 kg. I don't. It has to be interpreted in terms of the weight. What per million?
Yeah, it's around 400 ppm on an average.
Right. It is about 583 average ppm, and cutoff is 200 ppm. They have mentioned the report.
Okay.
It is the mineralization is in the bauxite cover. It's a scat rock of a simple limestone, sir. As a geologist, you better understand. It's in it's also important carbonation shales also.
Okay, I've gone through the report. Now, as far as exploration for lithium in Karnataka is concerned, I would like to mention briefly that we have an occurrence. I don't want to call it a deposit. There is a lot of difference between occurrence and a prospect and a deposit. Near Srirangapatna in Mandya district, AMD has worked on it. They have projected nearly 4,600 tons of lithium distributed in certain pegmatites primarily and in the soil horizons secondarily. Along with tantalum and columbite, we have some lithium occurring there that is projected as 1,600 tons by AMD. GSI carried out some prospecting and exploration work in Amareshwar area, in Lingsugur area, Raju district of Karnataka, where spodumene occurs in a pegmatite. And it is a small deposit. A lot of exploration was done by GSI. Nearby, Hatti Gold Mines Limited also carried out exploration. by Dr. Sangurmut and others. AMD also carried out work there, not a substantial deposit. So, and also we searched in the nearby areas. I was there in that area for 3 years. I have located a new rare earth element prospect, not an occurrence. We have done drilling. We have brought it to prospect stage, and we have proved a 1.1 kilometer long rare earth element prospect with very high values. 2%, 3% RE values are there. So that is my discovery. And then in the nearby areas, I found ultrapotoxic bodies, and then alkaline bodies, nepheline cyanides, and then carbonatite plugs in that area. So that means the area is geologically favorable for hosting rare metals, okay, mineralization. I worked in the adjacent area where a similar situation is there. Tintini granite is there, a circular body. I mapped that area on 1:10,000 scale. There are a number of pegmatite veins in the periphery of the granitic plutonic body. I was hopeful that I will get some economic mineral, but unfortunately, all those hundreds of pegmatites are not zoned, unzoned veins. So only pods and potash feldspar are there. No mica, no spodumene, no lepidolite, no tourmaline, no other exotic mineral is found. So like that, there are problems with lithium prospecting. We have to understand the whole process of lithium concentration in the differentiated products of a granitic magma. We have granites and granites, hundreds of granites all over the country. But in my understanding and in my experience, only younger granites, that too most evolved granites, can give lithium deposits. So we do not have many such evolved granites in the mainland of the country. So we have some carbonate occurrence in Ambadungar area, Chandidungri area, and we have some deposits probably along the central crystalline axis of the Himalayas, where younger granites are there, which are partly covered by glaciers. Probably one such occurrence has contributed the lithium content to the Salal Riasi occurrence in the form of bauxite. So that's my understanding. Whereas elsewhere in the country, in the world, all along the western margin of North America and South America, there are more than 150 porphyry copper and porphyry molybdenum occurrences are there. These are younger granites, and they probably have better prospects of hosting lithium deposits. So we have to understand the geology behind lithium. Lithium is one of the alkali metals. Sodium and potassium plenty. Cesium, lithium, and barium are very less in the Earth's crust. So lithium is a very rare mineral. While talking of lithium possibility in future, we'll have to think twice about it. So that's all. If any questions are there, I am ready to answer. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prakash. And with this, we will go to our next panelist, Dr. Abani Samal. He is again a geologist. He is a founder and principal of GeoGlobal LLC. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Monica. Before we start, I think I'll thank Mr. Prakash for clarifying, the status of the exploration. That is, I know, if some of you know my involvement in India, and that's one of the things that, we try to leave, at least at the base level in the mining industry, need to be fixed. What, going through the stages of exploration and use the proper terminology. And thanks to Mr. Langeh actually using the term resource, I think very recently I saw this, I carefully look at it, reserve is not reserve. We are actually tens of years, behind to get there, but that's not the topic today. Monica, I would like to get your permission to share my slides. I'm used to actually use some graphics when I talk. Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay. But I hope they are limited slides only.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can share the screen.
Yeah, this one. Is it visible, Monica?
Yes, it is visible. You can put
Okay.
it on slideshow mode. Yeah.
Is it visible now?
It is. It is.
So it's in slideshow mode, right?
It is not on slideshow mode. You need to click, on the, there is an icon at the bottom.
Just a second. So I understand that. So this different softwares used differently for the team.
Or you can just present it the way it was. It's okay. As in, you can move on to the slides.
And just
magnify it and we could read it.
Yeah.
So this one. So okay, it should be in the slideshow mode, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay. So that's just me. Just before I start, I know that I'm coming from a mining industry background. I think Shubh Gautamji, you're you were probably in California. I'm in Utah, in Salt Lake City, Utah. One of the sources of lithium is Salt Lake here in US. It's a great Salt Lake. So I know that we started talking about EVs. I got some data. I'll share some data actually. On every slide, there is a either is a logo of the company where my data source is, or a website you can refer to. That just shows that these 5 years, these guys, they were actually they were tracking the number of EVs sold. It doesn't surprise me. I wouldn't take China into consideration here, but what I actually noticed here is Japan was actually way below there, no way comparable with US. But US was, when we talk about Europe, we're talking about major European countries. I'll have a next slide. We'll probably clarify that. But US was just, starting to get there, thinking about it, just pre-COVID. This is 2021. China is still there, a pretty big guy. But look at Germany. Total share is 10.2%. Next is US. That many EVs sold. And, if you look at 2023, I'm pretty sure it has improved a lot, but I don't have the data. This is from IEA. This slide just shows that, what is the amount of all the material that we need if we project that the total all the energy sources going from from carbon related sources to electricity, then there will be sixfold or at least fourfold demand for the commodities. Okay, fine. So someone mentioned, I think Shubh Gautamji mentioned, this is a slide I presented. Probably this is my 4th time I'm presenting in different forums. This is an interesting slide. It just shows that it's not just lithium. We need copper, cobalt, nickel, rare earth, and I'm glad that they showed aluminum, but I wasn't very happy that they didn't include iron, because aluminum, copper, you can have the wires, but without infrastructure, you have no way you can get the electricity transmitted from point A to point B. You cannot. It's just not possible to do that. But just focusing on EVs and battery storage, we know the darker the dot means more important it is to have this commodity. So you can see the lithium is probably most important commodity when it comes to EVs and battery technology basically. But just going back there, we have to have all these commodities along with it. Without that, this transition to the battery technology is not possible. Staying on, focused on the EV and battery technology and lithium exploration, just we know that how many gigafactories that we need. We are already looking at this gap in just looking at North America and Europe. If you look at it, there is a huge gap between what the demand in the market is going to be and what we have today. Shubh Gautam mentioned about the gigafactory in Reno, Nevada, and there are actually the deposit that was mentioned. That is one of the known ones, but over last 2 to 3 years only, there are number of deposits being staked, and continuous exploration is being carried out in the state of Nevada itself. And there are a number of exploration going on, even in the state of Texas. I was like surprised to see what it is, but it's all granitic plutons actually being explored. And there was a company I was talking to. They were actually exploring both lithium and rare earths in the state of Texas. I was surprised, but then I realized that I wasn't actually focusing on that. This database just shows that the capacity that we have and the gap between the China and the rest of the world. But what we see here, there's no place of India now, but I think, and this database just projects up to 2027. We really want to be there and not just clubbed inside these others. It's at 523 in there, maybe one of the major capacity in the battery manufacturing, so that we can be really self-reliant. And whatever the projection is, basically we need to invest more. This one, this statement that shows there is about US and Europe. We need to invest a lot of money. US need to invest a lot of money in the in this whole battery technology. It's a funny thing that if you're aware of this new bill that was passed a couple of years ago, and then US kind of everyone says, whoa, US government is spending money and the exploration and mining. Actually, that's not true. The government money is going to the downstream processes, more focused on extraction, because that's where the money is. None of that federal government money is assigned or can be used for exploration, just for clarification in the United States. But the first time in the United States history, or at least in the near past, government participated in the mining industry directly. What we see kind of a common thing in India and parts of Africa and Europe, that wasn't true. It's the first thing. I always correct people like, hey, you can always curse the government, but remember the past time they spent a lot of money. At least they committed a lot of money. This is an interesting chart I found from S&P. What that shows that still there's going to be a time around, we'll probably have a time when we'll have kind of a mismatch between what we're producing and what we are actually, what the demand is. And at time we will feel probably, well, I think we have we can actually meet the demand for a little bit of time. However, just in a couple of years, in around 2025, 26, we'll see a huge gap between demand and supply of the materials that we need for electricity. Just focusing on lithium, like I think Mr. Shubh Gautam and Mr. Prakash, actually you tossed up on two different types of deposits. Actually, there are two different types, and then I think the J&K falls into the third category. Is associated with the bauxite. I'm not aware of the great lead in that area in the extraction process. I'm not a metallurgist. However, the focus is either on the brine side or from the hard rock side. Why? I think there is a correction I would like to make. Someone mentioned about we have a lot of zinc. Actually, that's not true. We just know about the deposit. We know about the occurrences of zinc, and I'm thankful to actually Monica to conducting this webinar on the focusing on exploration. Lithium exploration is at infancy, entire world. When I was doing research over the last six to 8 months, because there's so much discussion in here, and so many people, so many times that we have discussed this thing. I think USGS has probably USGS, and recently I found British Geological Survey and the Indian our Geological Survey of India. We have a lot of data, but in public domain, it comes from the geological surveys of US, I think the number one, then BGS and Australians, and some of the Canadians. These information are available in public domain. But in India, the exploration that has happened long time ago hasn't come to limelight yet. Thanks to Prakash actually mentioning that. They have done a tremendous job. Few days ago, someone was asking, like, why don't we should have lithium everywhere? I said that's not true. This is just the world map. We know the geology and mining industry happens where the deposit occurs. That is truth. The whole thing is controlled by the controls of mineralization. In this particular map, this is source is USGS. We always focus on that. South America, because of the gigantic, brine source of lithium in there. However, just focus on the United States there. You see the Great Salt Lake City. I'm like 20 miles from Great Salt Lake City. That's the city I am in. One of the major sources of lithium today. Then also you have the Clayton Valley, Salton Sea, all those kind of things. They're all brine sources from the Great Salt Lake City. Then in the entire Americas, you don't see anything else. You don't see anything else. But you'll see if you focus on America's current exploration, most of them are after hard rocks. You'd be surprised to know in the western part of US, there are all three different types of lithium occurrences are being followed by juniors coming from Australia. I've seen them coming from Australia, focusing on the United States, particularly in the western US for exploration. Here, the global distribution of all the deposits there. Just focus on, if I want to focus on the red dot, those are pegmatites and granites. You see there's a lot of those. Look at the Australians, look at the Asians there, and some of these things in Africa. The big dot 56 in Northern Africa. That's actually, there should be one other dot here in Nigeria. There are a bunch of them here. If you have been to Africa, Northern Africa, these are actually filled with granitic and these are plutonic torrents. But exploration has not, it hasn't happened yet at the level that we can call it. At least, it's a good exploration data going for investment. What in India in this map? None. And we are very, we are kind of, trying to get there. Again, another map of where the resources are. That means known occurrences and where we can quantify the materials. Look at some of the areas where you have the stripes. That's where actually US, here is China, and where we have both types of lithium deposits. Again, whole thing in here, if you look at this, Europe, Europe is a net importer. Africa here is a net exporter. What that really means, I think that I have a slide to show you. They don't have the manufacturing capability yet. Production-wise, if you look at, this South America is very much well known because Chile, Argentina, and there's another one actually here. I forgot the name of the country. So three countries, they're kind of called triangle, lithium triangle. But that time has gone. It's only last 5 to 10 years, less than 10 years. All this exploration has happened or happening now. We are not there yet in terms of lithium exploration, not like copper, not like iron, not like other commodities. We are still trying to understand lithium better. So again, India need to be in the map. We are not there yet. Talking about that level here, I think thanks to Prakash actually correcting there. I think that labeling is incorrect. That blue portion of this curve that shows that there is the hard rock proportion. The lithium coming from hard rock that is increasing over time, whereas the brine is kind of constant there. It's not improving a lot because we already know more and we have explored more, and the knowledge base about brine sources are more mature than the hard rocks. And particularly in North America, And Africa, if you focus, you'll see that there are a lot of exploration focused on hard rocks, granitic terrains. My final thoughts, I think this is the slide I was going to show you, that what's happening also in the dynamics of this, sourcing the commodity, putting that into use, and in between is the or different types of uses and where the commodity flowing. This is still a benchmark, try to map it. I know it's a kind of preliminary map. What they're showing that major consumers going to be US and Europe, a little bit of China, Russia, and those kind of things, but major going to be US and Europe. However, we still have South America is kind of a source, Africa kind of a source, not yet manufacturing. I hope that this map changes pretty rapidly so that we have manufacturing happening in India, Africa, and South America. The second point I have is about government policies. I just mentioned about US. Here's a picture. I think I'll have a picture to show what's going on in the international dynamics. If you are a geologist or mining, or you are in the mining industry, you know the PDAC convention happens in Canada every year in February, March, largest convention in the mining industry. What they talked recently was the 3 topics came from the recent the 2023 PDAC. Resource nationalism, that means you'll hear a country saying, oh, we won't let the lithium get out of our country. Why? Because they're realizing the value of the commodity. They're trying to protect their interests. No problem. It is every country has their own interest. Investment in exploration. I noted I actually included India, Indonesia, and Nigeria because in Nigeria I advised the government from World Bank for the exploration of various commodities there. Investment is still very uneven, and it will remain uneven. But there are countries who are being proactive. India is one of them. We may not realize it, that India's government is putting a lot of money to advance exploration. That's not happening in many countries. Again, I'm quoting that again in my last thought is, the third thought is we need a lot of investment, particularly in the US. What we need actually in the $87 billion, what we are trying to say, hey, okay, you'll find the resources, but what about the research that we need to do to understand this commodity better? Some points, that's purely my opinion. We need to have better understanding of the resources that we have domestically. That's true for every country, and also talk internationally. Manufacturing research, industrial research has to happen. My favorite one is you can invest all the money in the industry unless we educate. We have a production. We have a educated mass to bring this industry forward. We cannot. No country can actually progress. No country. It's a huge issue in the United States, particularly. This is a picture that was public. What you see that doesn't happen very often, right? United States hosting some African countries. Why? Because of the critical minerals. If you look at the critical minerals, you'll see where lithium sits, right? So where are we headed now? This is a beautiful picture, actually, what Mining Journal put sometimes ago. We have no choice but go towards battery. We have no choice. That's why we're gonna go. However, what's going on today? This came last week, I think. If you look at the major mining companies, BHP being number 1, I believe Rio Tinto is still number 2, and Vale or Glencore, depending on the Glencore and the other company take over, what's going on, they'll be 3rd or 4th, and Anglo American probably 5th in terms of their total value of the company. Now, if they are the major companies, their focus is mostly base metals. Copper, lead, zinc, and nickel. You see how much actually Vale is spending on nickel. Look at their lithium portfolio. No way comparable. Who are coming with the nickel mining? SQM and Albemarle. I had never heard of Albemarle until they opened up the project here in North Carolina. One of the largest.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Abadi. You will have to conclude, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. So I'm going to leave the panel with one question. Who will invest in India? Are you going to be still depending on federal government, or is it going to be public participation? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think Dr. Prakash has a question. So if we can take it quickly, and after that we can go to Mr. Ajay. Or one more thing we can do, Dr. Prakash, if we can, hold the question for a while and let the speakers speak first, and then we will take it up all the questions at the end. Yeah. So I'll straight away go to Mr. Ajay Sharma from, he's the Secretary General SMEV. So, carrying forward to Dr. Abani Samal's points on battery, and he's representing an association society of manufacturers of electric vehicle. I think he will be able to give a better light now from the user perspective. So welcoming you, Mr. Ajay Sharma. Over to you.
Thank you, Monica ji. And on behalf of the Society of Manufacturers of Electric Vehicles, I would like to extend our heartiest congratulations and compliments to Metalogic for organizing such an important webinar today, which is on lithium exploration in India and batteries. And as you rightly said, that the SMEV, our society, today represents the interest and the views of almost 100 manufacturers of electric vehicles, primarily two-wheelers, three-wheelers from across the country. And as we all realize, and as our eminent panelists have today already given the details and the technical aspects of the relevance of lithium and how it is also important for electric mobility, I would like to give more perspective from the electric mobility and the industry users. So I would just like to highlight that lithium remains one of the key components in electric vehicles batteries, but global supplies are under strain because of rising electric vehicle demand. So this is one of the notions, and the world could face lithium shortages by 2025, as per the International Energy Agency report. And as per another report of Credit Suisse, demand could treble between 2020 and 2025, meaning supply of lithium could be stretched. About 2 billion electric vehicles needs to be on road by 2050 for the world to hit net zero, as per the International Energy Agency's report. But sales stood at just 6.6 million last year. So therefore, it's still a long way to catch. But lithium supply faces challenges not only from surging demand, but because resources are concentrated in few places, as already highlighted by some of our fellow panelists today. Over half of today's production is in areas with high water stress. Future developments with batteries and manufacturing methods could eventually alleviate some of these lithium shortages. As you mentioned that we represent the interest of the manufacturers, the electric vehicle manufacturers. The global electric vehicle purchases jumps to 6.6 million in 2021 from 3 million a year earlier, meaning that the electric vehicles made up 9% of the market. According to the International Energy Agency, they accounted for all the growth in worldwide car sales, which rose to 66.7 million last year, up from 63.8 million in 2020. This implies that non-EV sales have fallen to almost 700,000. Global lithium production totaled 100,000 tons, 90.7 million kilograms last year, while worldwide reserves stand at about 22 million tons, 20 billion kgs, according to the US Geological survey. Dividing lithium production by the amount needed per battery shows that enough lithium was mined last year to make just under 11.4 million EV batteries. This is the level that annual electric vehicles purchases could hit soon, after first quarter sales rose by 75% on the year to touch 2 million, according to the International Energy Agency report. India lithium battery market is rapidly growing and estimated to reach a value of US dollars 25,309.59 million by 2031. This growth is mainly driven by increasing demand for cost-efficient, lightweight, and longer-lasting batteries in the automotive, consumer electronics, and power industries. The Indian government has also taken several initiatives to promote the use of these advanced batteries. Some of these initiatives you are already familiar with, like the FAME policy, the production-linked incentives. I would not like to touch that because most of that has already been mentioned earlier also. but I must admit that the government has been doing a good job in terms of promoting the electric vehicles, in terms of announcing these policies. The FAME policy has been extended till March 2024. However, some of our members still have concerns that the subsidy, the FAME subsidy, should get extended by at least 2 to 3 more years. So that is one issue which we would like to highlight here for the benefit of our viewers, some of the manufacturers who are present here. As per the Niti Aayog report, India aims to have at least 30% of its vehicle, as already mentioned by some of our fellow panelists, to run on electricity by 2030, which is a milestone, which will remind the demand for lithium-ion battery market in India. The government has also set a target to have 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030, which will further increase the demand for lithium-ion batteries with more than 600,000 Ah capacity for energy storage. As per the Niti Aayog estimates that the country's overall lithium battery storage requirement to be around 600 gigawatts for the period 2021 to 2030. Resultantly, the recycling volume coming from the deployment of these batteries will be 125 gigahertz for 2021 to 2030. The ambitious plan of the Indian government to achieve net zero by 2070 can potentially increase the demand for lithium. As the country races to transition to clean energy, there will be a higher need for lithium, as electric vehicles and clean energy storage devices are currently dependent on metal. According to Niti Aayog, the total EV sales by 2030 could go up to 80 million from the 1.3 million sales reported till July 2022. A report from the Central Electricity Authority claims that by 2029-30, India will have 2.700 megawatt of battery storage capacity. Early estimates indicate, as mentioned by some of our eminent panelists, that bauxite and lithium in RIA-C could be to the amount of 5.9 million tons, as indicated in 1999 report of the GSI, though the lithium in the RIA-C district is mixed with bauxite, as mentioned by our learned panelists. The final deposit amount could be less than predicted at the G3 level, as reported. The lithium found in RIA-C had more than 800 parts per million quality, as also highlighted by our fellow panelists, which hints at a high level of enrichment. Any lithium mineral with more than 300 parts per million quality is considered of good value. The Indian lithium battery market was valued at $1.66 billion in 2020 and is expected to reach $4.85 billion by 2027, registering a cumulative average growth rate of 17.23% during the forecast period of 2022-2027. The COVID restrictions had a negative impact on raw materials such as lead, which witnessed a significant drop in 2020, thus adversely affecting lithium battery manufacturers in India. And I would again like to highlight that the last 2 years of the lockdown have had some challenges in terms of the global supply chain disruptions, and the government needs to take cognizance of the fact that in order to build an ecosystem for battery manufacturing in India, they need to give some more lead time to our manufacturers, and so that the entire ecosystem for manufacturing these batteries are available within the country. As already highlighted by our fellow panelists, the raw material is a challenge. It is located in some of these very, very limited areas, and mining itself is a huge challenge. Some of the South American countries also have deposits, but as I mentioned, technologies and mining capabilities are a big question mark. Also that I did mention about the production link incentives and the FAME policies. Further, I would also like to inform that we have to wait to see how much of this resource is feasible and viable to be commercially extracted, as already mentioned by some of our fellow panelists here. And the GSI's further study will reveal the quantum of the total reserve, which is still a long way. Mining alone would not entail an end to external dependence. Countries like China have developed additional infrastructure and technological expertise, as highlighted here, and experience in processing and refining mined lithium to make it ready to be used in batteries. We don't have anything on that front and would need energy, capital, and the government's hand-holding support for the same, as I have been mentioning. Australia has, however, similar lithium reserves like the Jammu and Kashmir reserve, as mentioned, where lithium is mixed with bauxite. We may need technology transfers and tie-ups with the lithium metal extraction industry outside. And therefore, again, I would urge the government to come out with some policies where we can have technology of transfers. We have seen this kind of technology of transfers successfully being implemented in areas like defense. So therefore, this is a high technology area, and we would like to seek the indulgence of the government to come out with some more policies which is more industry friendly. And also I would like to express my apprehension that in this Riyasi area, according to the seismic zonation map of India, the whole of Jammu and Kashmir, which lies close to the Himalayas, comes under zone 4 and is also ecologically sensitive. Several international reports in countries where lithium mining takes place have talked about the impact of environmental degradation in such areas. Today, when India is hosting the G20 presidentship and climate change is one of the major issues, we have to be very, very mindful of these environmental issues moving forward. And August 2022 report published in Nature Conservancy claimed that the proven technologies of lithium extraction through surface mining or brine evaporation, which mentioned by some of our fellow panelists, would need hundreds of acres of land for extraction and could lead to complete removal of native vegetation from the area. It also said that such projects are most likely to happen in rural areas and wild zones, affecting the local population and battling for sustainable mining methods for the metal. The Riyasi district, as also mentioned, has rural households, vegetation, and the Chenab River and tributaries near its hills. So therefore, one has to be very, very careful while we talk about these discoveries, or as mentioned by some of our fellow panelists, it is a long way. However, I feel that lithium is going to be very, very important and critical for the growth of the EV industry in India. We have to apply our mind. The experts, the technocrats, the policymakers have to come together along with these entrepreneurs and investors to figure out how we can match the kind of expansion China has done, the kind of investments China has done, not only within its own resources, but also in investing other resources in other countries. So therefore, I feel that this today's webinar on lithium exploration in India and batteries is certainly a very, very important topic for discussion. And I would again like to thank Metalogic for giving SMEV the opportunity, and I convey my best to each one of you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ajay Sharma ji. So I think the phone, could you please mute the phone? Have you turned on phone?
Me?
Yeah. So I think the live is going on phone also. If you're seeing that, if you could just mute it.
No, not me, not to my knowledge. If it would happen, it could have happened accidentally.
Yeah. Now it is clear.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Ajay ji. And now we are moving towards our last panelist. We have Mr. Bulusu Srinivas. He has come in place of Dr. Prakash Kumar from CSIR. So Mr. Bulusu, we welcome you, and we request you to stay within 10 minutes time limit so that we can have 5 minutes of Q&A. So over to you, sir. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Monica, and then good afternoon to all panelists, Dr. Prakash and Dr. Gautam and Dr. Samal and Dr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma, it's very nice to see some eminent experts as well as belonging to different fields, manufacturers, explorationists, Dr. and Mr. Langeh as well from Jammu and Kashmir. I'm not going to go in details of what really the lithium is all about, and then the demands and then supplies and all that. What I want to raise an important issue here is that we are probably, sort of stuck with the conventional exploration methodologies for lithium, as far as lithium is concerned in India. Our Director General of CSIR, I belong to CSIR National Geophysical Research Institute, and our Director General, Dr. Kalesalvi, she's an expert on lithium batteries. She's a chemical engineer. And then our organization especially is a kind of academic research institute with experience in exploration, along with the major organizations such as Geological Survey of India and the Atomic Minerals Division. What I would like to highlight in my brief presentation is about to go and hunt for the unconventional lithium resources. My point is that India has a vast geological history, ranging almost from like Hadean to the recent. So we have we require to really do a sort of brainstorming on how really we can optimize our. I mean, we can't really go and blindly search everywhere and anywhere. We need to focus and we need to evolve methods for exploration for lithium, especially lithium, in the Indian geological context. So in that, in this kind of background, our DG has given a clear kind of incentive, and our director, we are taking up a mission mode projects. Of course, we are not a very large scale exploration agencies such as GSI or Atomic Minerals Directorate, like that. But then what we are trying to do is that we are going to fill in this gap of looking for unconventional kind of from a kind of academic background. So we are already into the business, like we are already into this program, and I hope we can surely we come up with some very interesting results in the near future. But what I would like to say is that instead of repeating what Chinese or American experiences regarding exploration is concerned with, we should really look for other geological strata, such as especially in terms of what is omnipresent in India, in Indian background. I think we should really concentrate, and as I said, there must be a national level discussion on how to go about the exploration for lithium in the coming decade or coming 5 years, involving GSI, Atomic Minerals Directorate, and institutes like us, so that we can look at, we can formulate, and then probably share our databases, share our experiences with regarding to this particular lithium exploration, and then perhaps we can then be in a better position to really narrow down and claim our Indian position in this global industry of electric vehicles and then the lithium exploration. So as I said, we have initiated in that direction, and this webinar is really interesting in that sense. So I would really not go into those details of what is that's already been covered by many of our panel experts. And what I would like to emphasize again, re-emphasize again, is that there is a need for concentrated effort in terms of looking for unconventional as well as conventional. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't look for conventional, but then there may be an opportunity, a huge opportunity, because we are always guided by what is already known. So so that's where my point lies, and I think we have some sort of indications, at least in our digging in our own databases, in our own researches of previous years. So I think we have some inclinations towards that, and we can share all those experiences with the leading exploration agencies such as GSI and AND. But what I feel is that through this webinar, I would like to either call for a proposal or a national level brainstorming session on how to go about lithium exploration in the Indian geological context is a kind of must and a prerequisite before we launch into a major program of lithium exploration in India. And I really hope that India could take on this lithium opportunity and become a global leader, and thereby taking the accelerate our whatever the development that we're doing in last 1 or 2 decades, and then claim that developed status, and then become maybe the superpower that is bound to happen in future. So I congratulate all the panel experts as well as participants in this very nice seminar, and then very interesting talks by other panelists. And then yeah, with this I would like to just end.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Bulusu. And with this, we are opening the panel discussion for the guest also who have joined us today. But before that, we will have the quick question from Dr. Prakash. So you wanted to say something? You can unmute yourself here.
Yes. My reaction is with respect to Dr. Abani's comment that GSI reports are not made available to the public. Yes, that was the scenario before 2012. And now everything available in GSI is put on GSI portal, and it's available free of cost. Even some of the gold investigation reports costing crores of rupees earlier are made available to the public now. Anybody can download them with maps. Second thing is, recently, in the last, say, 20 years, we have conducted a national mission project called National Geochemical Mapping Program on the lines of China, and we have covered the entire country on a grid pattern of 1 square kilometer. A soil sample, colluvial or fluvial or alluvial or whatever material, even the agricultural soil material in 1 square kilometer area, we have sampled and we have analyzed for 65 elements by the latest distribution techniques like ICP or NAA or XRF or any method available. For some of the rare elements like platinum and others, we have done 65 element package analysis. And I'm sorry to say that in lakhs and lakhs of samples that we have analyzed so far, lithium is not found to be an anomaly in any of the areas. Sometimes we find gold as an anomaly, copper, lead, zinc, cadmium, nickel, and so many other things as anomalies. But lithium is not found in any of the 1 square kilometer grid samples as an anomaly. That's one thing. Second thing is, in the last 30-40 years, we have analyzed millions of rock samples and mineral samples by the latest instrumentation analytical techniques available in the world, and nowhere we have identified anomalous lithium values. Only thing that I did not mention earlier is about Bihar mica belt and Nellore mica belt, where lepidolite, a pink mica carrying lithium, is found in small pockets. And in Bastar, Konta, where tin tungsten deposits are there, lithium is not found. And AMD and GSI have done extensive search for radioactive minerals, and in none of the areas we have found lithium. With this scenario in the background, launching future programs as suggested by Dr. Pulusu Srinivas, yes, to give a mandate to GSI or any other agency to launch new programs in India, we'll have to think very carefully, keeping the geological milieu in mind, where we have to pigeonhole the prospect. Lithium doesn't occur everywhere. So that is one thing. Second thing about Mr. Shugotra, once again, I want to tell that this year you are seeing a hot condition, very less rainfall. I am foreseeing a situation up to October where the monsoon is going to be weak and bleak. If such dry periods are there for 2 or 3 seasons, definitely hydel power will come down. And in a country where nuclear power is not encouraged by the eco lobby, where will you produce the power? To have cells and EVs. It's a very, very ambitious project to have EVs in place of fossil fuel vehicles. I see that there's a lobby behind it. I'm putting it straight away. And climate change theory was a lobby, and it has been called as a fraud on mankind. And we have to think twice before we proceed on such new proposals. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Prakash. We have a question from Dr. S.K. Sarkar to Mr. Langeh. Mr. Langeh, he want to know, is the state government of J&K going to auction the prospect in the coming days?
In fact, we have started the process of acquiring land and identifying the lands from the country, because it contains a lot of infrastructure and mostly habitated population is there. And the question of auctioning is concerned. For any we grant mineral concession, we need to have identification of the proper kind of land. And further, it will depend on the recovery rate of the mineral. As Dr. Prakash has said, that I am not expert in the lithium exploration, but he has interpreted that how much 400 ppm is the value which can be harnessed properly, depending upon the technology. It's a big decision government can take, how it can be, we can go ahead for processing of auction process.
Right, sir. And we have a question for Dr. Prakash. Langeh sir, if you could just mute yourself, there's a little disturbance coming up. So we have a question from Mr. Shaswat Mishra. Dr. Prakash, he want to know, he represents Reliance Industries and he is asking, sir, could you please confirm the total reserve of bauxite found and what is the share of lithium ppm? Is it 5.9 million tons of bauxite with 400 ppm lithium metal? So if you could just confirm in a very quick way.
No, I have already told that the total resource available is 5.9 million tons. That is the bauxite. Bauxite is a secondary capping on an original rock or a primary rock. This secondary chemical concentration of certain elements, mainly aluminum, secondarily iron. If iron is more, we call it laterite. If aluminum is more, we call it bauxite. Along with these two elements, any other element can get concentrated depending on the whole rock chemistry of the original rock, the beneath underlying rock. If we may have platinum, we may have lithium, or we may have cadmium, or nickel, or any other metal can occur as a byproduct in bauxite. Here we are seeing lithium concentration varying from 350 ppm to 440 ppm. Stray values like 800 ppm could be there, or even 1000 ppm could be there, but on an average it's around 440 ppm, and that amounts to, as I mentioned, 0.0004% of the total volume of 5.9 million tons. And it is not, it is a mistaken, totally mistaken projection. I am here to correct it today. It is not 5.9 million tons of lithium available in Riyadh.
It is bauxite. Got it, sir. Got it.
Yes.
Right, sir. We have a question from Rajat Kaushik to Mr. Ajay Sharma. The battery currently in the market may not be compatible to the harsh summer temperature of 40-45 degrees. Every other day, there is a fire incident reported in the media. How do we see the battery environment becoming sustainable for Indian automobile? As in, you have any? Yeah.
So thank you so much. Yes, and this is a very valid point, and it is also a concern for the industry. And I must inform each one of you that there are certain agencies which are already looking at it in terms of how to improve the quality of this and to ensure the safety of these batteries. And I'm sure, please understand that technologies, especially even in EV, like the telecom industry earlier, is still evolving. So technologies are still evolving, and therefore it will take a while to ensure that these batteries are more stable, sturdier, and safer. So the government is looking at it, the agencies are looking at it. There are certain certifying agencies who are also doing their own checks. So it is a process which is evolving, and I'm sure within some time, I'm sure these issues would get addressed. But even I would like to mention here that these cases of these fire incidents, they are also, if you look at if thousands of vehicles are being sold, even 1 or 2 cases happen, but these kind of accidents are happening everywhere. So I'm not saying that this is something good, but what I'm saying is that this is something which gets highlighted in the media. But please be assured that the companies themselves are very much concerned. The agencies are concerned, the governments are concerned, and all of them are sitting together and working on this. Thank you.
Right, sir. So there are some viewers who are watching our program on YouTube. Mr. C.A. Rajesh is there. He's asking, it is hoped that the cost of batteries will decrease in the future, thereby making it feasible to invest in electric vehicle today. So he has bit concerns with the kind of research is going on and whether we should invest into electric vehicles or not. So if anybody, it's an open-ended question. So in case anybody like to make an answer. Yeah. Mr. Ajay, since you represent EV.
So thank you so much. I was just waiting for the other panelists. So of course, this is a very sustainable business, and the cost, as I told you, is going to come down. Let's take a classic example of something which we all have experienced in the past. When the mobile telecom revolution started, the mobile handsets were so expensive, making calls was so expensive. But look at it now, it's just become a commodity. So therefore, as technologies evolve and they become better, the prices are bound to come down. And of course, it is going to be, and let me tell you, it is not about investing or not. It is a compelling proposition. If you have to look at the global issues of global warming, climate change and all that, So of course, electric mobility seems to be one of these solutions to address those concerns, because there are certain percentage of the pollution which is contributed by the automotive sector. So therefore, this is something which is the future. Of course, as I told you, technologies are to evolve. It is not a perfect technology. So therefore, this is a business to look for.
Right. So we can take one more question, and then I would request Dr. Shubh Gautam to give last closing remark. So Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar is writing, now the revised standard for AIS 156 and AIS 038 has come in effect. So fire incident will reduce drastically. Okay. Mr. OP Sumani would like to ask a question. Yeah. So OP Sumani ji, you can write your question in the chat box, please. Meanwhile, Dr. Gautam, you're there?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
So we are just taking this last question of Mr. OP Sumani. Meanwhile, he's writing, and then I would request you to please do the closing remark. To Dr. Prakash, DDG, GSI, and NGCM is not providing any anomaly on lithium in India. Does it mean that lithium is not associated with rocks and soils? Have we explored in India and concluded? Have we explored in India and concluded that lithium brine is not available in the country from which we may be able to extract lithium?
Well, it's a good question. It's a geology concerned with geology. See, we have to understand the geological setup of any terrain, Indian terrain or American terrain or Russian terrain or African terrain. There are different periods in which different rocks have come into existence time to time. And along with those new rocks, igneous especially, if not metamorphic and sedimentary, the material has come from beneath, from a depth of say 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers from beneath, from the magma, from the upper mantle. And when the rock material comes up, some ore forming minerals also come up, and they have been distributed in space and time. And in certain areas, we have certain commodities, and in certain areas, they are not there. So this is the pigeonholing of each and every commodity. Here in India, we are seeing a mid-Archean and a late Archean terrain mainly, and here and there we find some Mesozoic and tertiary rocks. And we don't have many younger granites. Tertiary granites are highly evolved granites, highly differentiated granites, and that is how we are not having many mineral deposits like tin, tungsten, or tantalum, columbium, uranium, or lithium. Such metals are very rare. There is something called mineralization associated with acid magmatism. We call it MAVAM. This acid magmatism is very, very important for lithium and other rare earth elements. So that is how primarily we do not have many lithium deposits in our country. While minor occurrences are there here and there, as I mentioned. So while launching programs in future, we will have to think of this geological milieu in our country. That's what I meant. NGCM, yes, we have tested for 65 elements, including lithium, and we don't have any anomalous value which can be taken up for further exploration work. Exploration is carried out in 3 or 4 stages, by pitting and trenching, by drilling, and later economic evaluation like that. G4 to G3 to G2 to G1 like that. So in many areas we have done G4 and G3 also, but G2 and G1 are not done for lithium anywhere in the country. And that is how the future appears to be very bleak for me as far as lithium is concerned.
Right, sir. OP Sumani ji, you can unmute yourself and please be extremely quick. He's and I'm very surprised that at the time of ending the program, I'm still getting so many requests where people are joining it. Yeah, Sumani ji, very, very quick,
Thank you.
please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Actually, my question is to the officer from Jammu. That actually what made this you call it a lithium deposit, in fact, because In India, lithium is an atomic mineral, and it's specified in Atomic Minerals Act that anything below 5,000 ppm of Li2O will not be economic, though it is a kind of threshold thing. And your values are only 300 to 400 ppm. So what made you, I'm surprised, what made you to call it a lithium deposit? Because any deposit has to be economically viable. Any deposit has to be economic.
Actually, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
In fact, it is lithium-bearing mineral, but when we take scheduled mineral, it is non-metallic mineral. In fact, it's a metallic mineral, but lithium recovery, as Dr. Has told, Dr. Prakash has told that it is not there as mentioned in the report. It further depends upon the recovery part. I have already told.
All right, sir. Yeah, Doctor.
Otherwise, we will take it as a bauxite, as Dr. Chesam said.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Dr. Gautam.
Thank you, Monica. It's been a great webinar. I mean, there were some awesome revelations as far as local topological and geographical insights that we got, both from a commercial standpoint of and from the standpoint of whether net zero is possible. So, I mean, Dr. Prakash did clarify that it is not 5.3 million tons. It actually is only 5,000 some odd kgs. And I don't understand, if the deposit's only 5,000 kgs, why are we having a webinar on this? I mean, just doesn't make sense. To give you a brief idea, Chile has 7.5 million tons. Australia has 5 million tons. China has 7 million tons. I mean, the first Clayton, Nevada, it was confirmed by Dr. Samal, and I extended presentation on that, had 1 million tons back then when first gigawatt factory was established. So yes, the question was pretty much right, that we need to be very, very sensitive towards what we report and how we report. So I will not go into whether lithium exploration is the right way to go to India. If we don't have exploration, how? So the next question that comes in, and it was referred by Mr. Ajay Sharma also in his eloquent presentation, was, why are we going towards electric vehicles? Is it a law? Of course not. But the question is, as lobbying is as old as human mankind, can we afford climate change? Yes or no, we don't know. But make no mistakes. You are the largest democracy and you've signed on net zero by 2050. So once you've signed, let's go beyond that. I completely agree. Volcanoes emit more CO2. CO2 is a beautiful gas. CO2 causes vasodilation, and that's how you get more oxygen in your brain. I'm not saying that NASA says this. So this rewiring society around sustainable fuels, is it a pipe dream? And if we can't achieve it, what next? And if we can achieve it, as I told you, there's more capital available today in technology towards climate change as was available 10 years back. And let me give you some numbers, because I come from a background of data as an investment banker. Number one, 10 years back, there were 5 sovereign funds, hedge funds, and pension funds who would invest in new technology for climate change. Today, there are over 500 funds, and more funds are coming every month. The US Inflation Act alone, which would take care of consumer rights, is magnanimously $1 trillion fund. So is there a lack of capital? Of course not. Will electric vehicles be the answer? I don't know. Now let's take this 60 seconds towards the biggest enemy of electric vehicles from a sustainability point of view, which is hydrogen fuel cells. Now I drive a Toyota Mirai in California for the last 18 months. It gives me 502 kilometers on a single charge of hydrogen filling, which is 5 kgs. The hydrogen tank in Toyota Mirai is 5.5 kgs, and you can fill 5 kgs. You don't fill a tank and it's completely empty. Today, cost of hydrogen in California is $7.5. So I'm filling about $38, $40 of gas, and I'm getting 502 to 510 kilometers to the charge. That brings me to 6 in Indian rupees, 6 rupees per kilometer. If I take any standard car today with a 12 kilometer per liter average and gasoline at 110 rupees, today the hydrogen fuel cell is cheaper than gasoline. So will this transition happen just because there's climate change? Of course not. There will be personal aspirations. There will be moral aspirations. People will feel more responsible as global citizens and say, well, am I responsible for more carbon emissions? Good or bad is a debate we should have done when we didn't sign on net zero. We've signed it. We have to abide by it. If it doesn't happen, what happens? As I told you, the biggest economic change that happened in the last 25 years was we created independent organizations like World Trade Organizations. World Trade Organizations are not run by political families. They're not run by countries. They are run by capital because capital needed protection. Capital flows into jurisdictions. Capital creates assets. And if assets are not protected, capital would not flow. And what if tomorrow World Trade Organization becomes a climate hawk or a climate watchdog and says, look, I'm sorry, this can't work. I agree. You might not agree with if CO2 is good, bad, harmful. You signed on the dotted line. So let's move on. Would hydrogen fuel cell be better than lithium-ion batteries? Yes, maybe. What happens then? Then we're not talking about lithium. The question is, climate change, global warming, sustainability. We have the best, youngest, and highest population in the country. Do we have the best engineers? Of course. We are the highest consumption population in the world. How do we protect ourselves? And this protection needs broader debate. I'll give you a small example as to how we'll have a proper. There's a company called eZinc. It was established in Toronto, Canada. They raised a lot of capital, and because of capitalism, I would know all this data. What they do is they have guaranteed that they can create battery storages, large battery storages for anybody, which can give you power for days. Zinc is much abundantly available, has been explored. We have supply chain stability in zinc. And if storage solutions go to zinc, where's lithium in the process? So the debate is not about lithium. Yes, we've seen the pros and cons of lithium batteries. Today, lithium is preferred. How do you know what the commercial model was? Maybe if there was no lithium in Clayton Valley, Nevada, there was no gigafactory for lithium, would Tesla go the lithium way? Of course not. They had a choice. They made a choice, lithium. Should we make the same choice as a country? I don't think so. We should make a choice that is good for us. That is good for us for growth. That is more affordable. And if zinc storage system is the answer, we go zinc storage way. If hydrogen fuel is the answer, we go hydrogen fuel way. The question is, we can store hydrogen, which can create electricity. We cannot store electricity. And that's where the buffering mechanism comes. So winding it up, yes, there is a fear on possibility of whether we'll go for net zero. We will attain it or not. As a country, we need to be prepared. Is there capital available? Yes, private capital is available. Should this domain be out of the political discussion and policy, and should it be lent to people? For example, should there be a bigger social trade-off which the people are willing to take? Oh, we'll have lesser cars. We will use less electricity. We will not fly just for vacation. This has to be done if we are shrinking. It's not easy to replace 2 billion minus 3% ICE in the next 25, 30 years. So yes, thank you, Metalogic. Thank you, panelists. It was excellent looking at those numbers. And thank you, Dr. Prakash, Mr. Langeh, Dr. Samal, Mr. Sharma, and Mr. Srinivas for all your views. And yes, inviting me, thank you so much. I come from a stupid chemist background, but then we understand, we invest, we want to keep our money safe. We know what's happening where. I cannot disclose many more proprietary issues that we are looking at, but do I feel it's a daunting task? Yes. Getting to net zero by 2050 is the most daunting task to humanity ever. Can we do it? They're optimists. Absolutely agree with them too. They're pessimists. I agree with them too. But that does not mean we should not try. And if tomorrow's technologies are cheaper than today's technology, I can tell you, climate change or no climate change, people will adopt them. So let's welcome new technologies, look at diversification, look at discussions, and let's go forward. Good luck to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shubh Gautam. And with this, viewers, we are closing the webinar. And thank you so much for joining us. With this, I would like to thank our expert panelists, starting from Dr. Shubh Gautam, Chief Technical Architect from American Precoat, California, Mr. H.L. Langeh, Joint Director, Department of Mines and Geology, Government of Jammu and Kashmir, Dr. H.S.M. Prakash, former DDG, Geological Survey of India, Dr. Abani Samal, Founder and Principal, GeoGlobal LLC, Mr. Ajay Sharma, Secretary General of Society of Manufacturers of Electric Vehicle, Dr. on behalf of Dr. Prakash, we had Mr. Srinivas from CSIR, National Geophysical Research Institute, and thanking SMEV for supporting the conference as a support association. Viewers, a recorded version of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. Do visit to YouTube, type Metalogic PMS, and subscribe to the channel for free. And also click on the bell icon for the notification for more videos and notifications on the webinars and programs. All webinars have been documented and converted into a report, which you can find it on mymetalogic.com. We will meet again soon with a new webinar and new physical conference. Till then, take care and goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Go to mymetalogic.com. On the top left, click on Subscribe. Click on Subscribe now. You are now on the card page of Metalogic subscription. Quantity refers to number of months. Change it to from 1 to 12. Click on Update card. The subscription amount will be calculated on number of months selected. For 1 month, it is 500 rupees. For 12 months, it is 6,000 rupees. Click on Proceed to check out. Fill the billing details and click on Place Order. Now you can choose your mode of payment. You have just made a right choice. Thank you for subscribing to mymetalogic.com.